Today we're going to go on a little road trip and check out HomeSense. It just opened where I live and I have been dying to check it out. I know it's a lot like HomeGoods, but on my understanding and I can confirm from checking out the store, the options are a little bit more elevated in some of the areas, and we'll talk about those. We're going to talk about what to buy and what to skip over. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Ashley, and each day I help frustrated homeowners identify the right paint colors to effortlessly coordinate with their fixed elements. I also help those that are renovating or building a new build find the right hard finishes for a timeless home that effortlessly coordinates well. So I know a lot of you are home decor lovers. That's why you follow this channel. If you are, I think you will appreciate today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for anyone who wants to be creative, with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, interior design, freelance productivity, and more. Skillshare can help take your career, skills, hobbies, passions, or side hustles to the next level. So I probably saved this photo, I feel like 10 years ago. This is what got me started on loving and following all things that Emily Henderson does. I think she's brilliant. I love everything that she does. She has a class on Skillshare about styling your space. I just finished watching it. I think it's brilliant. If you are starting out and you don't know how to style your space, it's a great starting point. She talks all about how to identify your style, how to put a room together. She even takes you through styling her space and her home, start to finish, which I felt like was so helpful. So if you want to check this out, along with all the thousands of other classes that Skillshare offers, make sure to check out the link in my description, because the first 500 people to click on that link will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can get started today. Okay, so let's talk about where to start when you walk into HomeGoods or HomeSense. The first thing I like to do, if you're starting out with a blank canvas and you don't have any idea of where the room has to go in terms of direction for a color palette, you need to either start with the rugs, start with the pillows, or start with the artwork. So let's just say you want to start with artwork first, because I think that's a great jumping off point, and that's a great secret, is start with a piece of art and use the colors in the piece of art to build the room around, and you've got a really, really cohesive look when you're done. So I think the art selection at HomeSense was really, really phenomenal. I will say it's hit or miss. You know, sometimes you find great pieces, other times you don't. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so I really liked this piece. It's a little bit more abstract. I know not everyone's into that type of art, but I thought this was a great piece to illustrate this point. So this piece has a lot of really pretty colors. It's got some muted greens, some burnt oranges, some blues. Pick those 3 colors and repeat them in the room. So maybe that's finding a blue rug that really matches the tone of the blue in the painting. Maybe that's adding in some lamps with a base color that's like the green in the painting, and then repeating both of those tones throughout with your pillows or your drapery or things like that. That really helps to build your palette. Now, a couple tips with selecting art from HomeGoods. One, I think all of your art can't come from a big box store. It's great to fill in spaces where you're missing art. It's a great placeholder until you find a piece of art that really speaks to you, maybe that you find through a vintage or an antique store or through your travels. But I don't think every piece of art should come from HomeGoods or HomeSense, but I'm not saying skip over it entirely. I would prefer to look at pretty walls with things on them rather than blank walls. Another tip that I'll give to you is a lot of these pieces did not come with a frame, or they had a frame that was really, really lackluster. I would replace that with a better frame. I know I've talked about this before, but Jerry's Artorama has gorgeous frames at really, really affordable price points. They don't pay me to say this. I've just used them throughout my home, and I'm always really, really impressed with their quality. And I promise you, you will be so amazed at what a good frame does to a piece of art. It wakes it up, it makes it come alive. Don't ever just put like a blank canvas or a poster on your wall without a really, really nice frame, because you are doing the painting a disservice. And even one from HomeGoods, you can elevate by adding a really pretty frame. Okay, let's move on to the rugs. There were a ton of rugs at HomeSense, way more so than my local HomeGoods. I will say I preferred the selection of rugs at my HomeGoods over my HomeSense, but that's just my personal preference, my taste. Now here's what I'll say about the rugs. Typically, the biggest size you're going to see at HomeGoods, HomeSense is 8 by 10. Even for smaller rooms, you typically need 10 by 12 so that the front two legs of each piece of furniture is on the rug, so the rug's not floating there. The rug's job is to anchor the space. So if it's just kind of floating in the middle, it's really not doing its job. So that's something to pay attention to. Make sure you know the size that you need before you take those huge rugs home with you and then have to lug them back when you realize they're not big enough. Another thing that I'll say is take your paint chips with you, take your art, whatever, a picture of your art, whatever you need to make sure that the rug that you're selecting coordinates well. There's nothing worse than having, say you've got agreeable gray on your walls, that's a grayish paint color, it's got a green undertone. You really don't want to pair that with a rug that's primarily got beige or taupe tones. You're really going to have a little bit of a clash of undertones there. So take your paint chips with you, be weird, get out all your stuff. Make sure you're making the right decision before you purchase. Okay, pillows was the other thing that I said you could use. One time I decorated an entire room from a pillow that I found at HomeGoods, and it was one of my favorite. I probably did this about 10 years ago. I still use this method. What I will say about some of the pillows at HomeGoods, primarily you're going to find 20 by 20s, or sometimes you can get lucky, you'll find 22 by 22. For the most part, with larger sectionals, like a lot of us have, you're gonna need those 24 by 24 pieces. Those are great to put in the corners, on the sides. You need those larger pieces. Otherwise, the couch kind of looks like it's lacking something, because you need a larger pillow to really fill out that space well. If you've got a lower couch, then you can get away with the 20 by 20s, but if your couch is filled with nothing but 20 by 20 pillow sizes, you're going to feel like something's off. So those are great. The 20 by 20s are great to kind of fill in with your 24s by 24s and then your 22s by 22s, but don't select all 20 by 20s or you'll feel like something's missing on your couch. So that's my tip there. Okay, if you are sprucing up an outdoor living space, you have to check out HomeSense first. I was blown away by their selection. They had a ton of outdoor furniture that I thought was a really good quality. I also thought their selection of pottery was gorgeous. I ended up picking up these large planters that I'm going to use by my front door. I'm ready for more color. The price point was great. It was easily half of what you would spend at Home Depot picking out planters like this, or we have Pike Nurseries here, which I love, but their planters are so expensive. Go to HomeSense first, you will be amazed. They had a ton of small planters, which always gets me because I really, really want to put those outside because they're so cute, they're so colorful. However, I will say, unless you're putting these under a covered porch or somewhere that gets only morning sun, they will cook your plants. Trust me from experience, by midsummer, your plants in these small planters will be dead. I think they're great for indoor plants. I love adding color through colorful planters for indoor plants, but outdoor plants in the summer, these smaller ones, pass up unless you've got a covered porch or patio. Okay, you cannot miss the lamp and lighting selection at HomeSense when you walk in. It is huge and very, very impressive. I will have to say, the lamp selection at HomeGoods sometimes seems like an afterthought. It's hit and miss too. A lot of times you'll find decent ones, but it's really, really hard to find a pair at HomeSense, and I don't know if this is because they just opened. There were tons of pairs, tons of really nicely sized lamps. A lot of times the lamps at HomeGoods are tiny. It always looks really nice to have a really substantial lamp, especially in bedrooms. So I really, really urge you to check out the lamp selection. Again, very affordable. I loved a lot of the blue and green lamp bases. I'm very much drawn to those colors and was really pleasantly surprised by the price point and the colors. I didn't love the lamp shades on a lot of them, but you can buy inexpensive lamp shades online, so don't let that deter you from buying a really inexpensive lamp base that you really love, that's unique. They had a lot of fun textures. One rule of thumb though, when you're buying lamp shades, separately, make sure that the diameter of the lamp shade base is about 2 times the diameter of the lamp base itself. So that's just a quick rule of thumb. If you want to splurge on lamp shades, I have recently found this company called Pookie Lighting. I'll show you what it looks like. It is so fun. So lamp shades are a really fun way to add personality to a space. And Pookie Lighting has some of the best, very creative, very unique. So if you're looking to splurge on some of your lighting purchases, check those out, and then you can pair them with a more inexpensive base. That's a really fun way to have some personality with your lamps. HomeSense had a ton of decor, which I thought some of it was great, some of it you need to pass over. What I'll say about decor is the same rule applies that does art. You don't want all of your artwork or all of your decor to come from a big box store, but I think it's great for those areas where you're missing something or something speaks to you. I think it's great to pepper in pieces from a big box store. But again, just like with your artwork, you want a really good mix. You want to shop a wide variety of places. You want to go shopping when you're on vacation and see what local stores have to offer. You want to go to vintage stores. You want to go to antique stores, but you don't want everything to be from the same place. So just keep that in mind when you're shopping for decor. But they had a lot of blue and white pieces, which I know are really popular right now. I love blue and white. So if you're into that, make sure you go check out HomeGoods selection, because or HomeSense, I thought it was pretty affordable. Okay, one of the most underrated sections of HomeGoods, HomeSense, and even TJ Maxx is their hosting section. So if you're hosting a dinner party or a summer gathering, this happens to me almost every time I host. I'm putting things together and I'm realizing, oh, I need another platter, or I don't have quite enough pitchers for all the drinks I want to serve, or I don't have something large enough to keep all these drinks cold. Make sure you're not like me. You take inventory before you start pulling things together, and go to HomeSense, because you will find the most gorgeous things for hosting: platters, drink glasses, very unique cocktail glasses at a fraction of the price from what you can get anywhere else. So make sure to check those out. I think you absolutely should not overlook those. It's good just to kind of have on hand. Another section that is really, really great are the cutting boards. I think cutting boards are one of the easiest way to add color and character to a kitchen. I love displaying everyday items that you use, and cutting boards purchased online are pretty expensive. Now, if you go into HomeSense, HomeGoods, TJ Maxx has a really, really good selection of cutting boards. You're going to find them at a fraction of the price, so make sure to check those out. I'm helping my brother style his newly renovated kitchen. It's pretty much a blank slate right now, and I picked out a really pretty round cutting board. It just adds so much color and texture to an otherwise blank slate in a kitchen. Something that I think that you should skip over were the fake florals. Now, I've used fake florals, I've used fake greenery in my house, but my criteria is it has to fool my husband, because he's pretty observant. I don't want it to look fake. I felt like the flowers and the greenery at HomeSense looked a little too fake, a little too plasticky, so I would use very, very sparingly or not at all. They had a good selection of picture frames, and if you're like me and you like to display a lot of family photos on flat surfaces, bookshelves, credenzas, that type of thing, make sure to always check out their selection on photo frames. They always have a pretty eclectic blend. You want to have an eclectic mix of frames where you're styling them. So if you've got a rattan one, mix it in with a wooden one, mix it in with one that has a little bit more color, maybe a marble frame. HomeSense has a great selection of them, so make sure to check those out every time you're in. They're very, very affordable too. That wraps up my video on what to buy and what to skip at HomeSense. If you were just starting out on decorating a space, I invite you to watch my video on how to make a cozy home. I think that's really helpful if you're just starting out and decorating and you want to make your space feel inviting. So I'll put the link for that next.